The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host, Nico.
Good evening, guys, and welcome to the first episode of the Paranormal Report. Thanks for being here, and we are all excited for our first episode. Hopefully we get the first podcast jitters out. We're just going to go around the table and introduce ourselves, starting with Shane.
Yeah, my name is Shane Feek, and I'm a paranormal investigator focusing on the science and mathematical aspects of the paranormal from the Michigan area.
Awesome. Kat, how about you?
I am Kat Armstrong. I am also an investigator. I kind of run a team called Paranormal Exposures. I have some of the intuitive side, but also I'm interested in the scientific side, but I have great people like Nico for that. So.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome.
Michael, how about yourself, my friend?
My name is Michael Harris, and I'm a paranormal investigator as well, and I also with a few groups of paranormal teams. I'm also into the intuitive and the science part of the paranormal. It's a passion that I dearly love. It's an addiction, really, but thank you, Nico, and, Kat, I just appreciate you all for what you all do.
Oh, thank you, my friend. And I'm Nico Griffin. I do IT in my day job, and I'm also a paranormal investigator who likes to focus on the data and the scientific part of investigating. I want to find out how these things work and how they interact in our environment. That's my goal. I'm a part of a few different teams, and I'm very fortunate enough to know these fine people who agreed to co-host with me on this podcast. So thank you guys for being here, and thanks for being a part of this. It's a big deal to me. I appreciate you so much. Are you excited for the first episode?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes,
I figured our first episode would just be about getting to know us, why we do what we do, and we could just kind of go around the table and talk about who we are and what got us into the paranormal. That sound good?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
We'll just start with Shane and go to Kat and then Michael and then back to myself, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as far as me, I kind of got into the paranormal accidentally. I've always been interested in things outside of, standard science, standard physics, whatever. But I actually had a friend that kept bringing me all kinds of paranormal equipment for repair because I'm an electronics guy. I'm a computer sysadmin, and I build do-it-yourself projects. I build my own equipment. And since their REM pods would break and their whatevers would break, they bring me this stuff and they're like holding it up like, can you fix it? So I was like, all right, well, I'll try. Most of the time we were successful. So then they're like, well, hey, you should come on a hunt sometime. And I'm like, okay, sure, I'll do something different. And then after I went on a couple different hunts with other people and I saw what they were doing, and they had a little bit of trouble understanding the science part of it, and even though I wasn't an investigator, I'm like, well, if you guys really want the truth and you want to figure things out and you want to be honest with your answers, you need data to do this. And then I thought, well, I could start building some equipment, specifically for the ghost hunting field. And, at first it was more about just not having to sit there and stare at all these instruments for hours. And I was like, well, if we could just automatically log all this, number one, it takes the human bias out of it. And number two, it's a whole lot easier. So I started building this sensor board thing, and it started out with just a few little sensors, and I just kept adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. Now it picks up 20 some different sensors every second and logs them. And we've done some pretty good science with that, some control groups and some temporal research, comparing coincidences, trying to see if there's anything going on with that. So that's how I got into it. And then after a while, I just started, I dove in pretty much full, and I came out and visited you and John at the Friar School.
Yep.
And that was one of the first big runs with the sensor board. And of course, it's grown since then. So,
isn't it crazy? What are the chances that you would have found John's book and we would have connected in that way?
Yeah, I just sent him an email saying, "Hey, I was impressed to see a book that had something other than jump scares and filming techniques." It's like, so then I contacted John directly on email, and we started talking a little bit. And then eventually I drove out there the 7 hours and hung out with you guys for a couple weekends.
And who knows, maybe we'll get John on here too. We'll talk him into it, see what he's doing. Yeah, that's quite the journey, my friend. I know how hard that can be to overcome. You meet different people, different groups,
sure.
and some people don't really care about the scientific part of it. So,
Well, and the science people, it's very hard if you're skeptical to be like, what do you mean there's things that doesn't exist, you can't measure, easily anyways. And so it's hard to accept that as a science person, until I get some hard numbers. And I'm like, well, okay, well, that's closer. I mean, I can accept that. I mean, the numbers probably don't lie. So, 80% skeptic, 20% believer kind of a thing. And,
No, please, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's like that little tiny bit of data that you get every few investigations that you're like, there ain't a solution to it. And then that's what keeps you going. It's kind of like the flywheel effect. It kind of gives you that spin to keep going.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it every little bit, you kind of start being like, I don't feel like doing it anymore. But then it's like, one more new thing. Found something new. So.
Yeah, just that one thing that keeps you going. And too, from a scientific point of view, there are things that we don't know yet.
Absolutely.
I mean, we don't know.
We don't know more than we know, actually.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know what we don't know. And so the only way we're going to be able to discover what we need to know is by creating new equipment and coming up with new experiments, to get new results. So, well, Kat, what got you into the paranormal? Where did you start?
Well, I'm going to bounce off of Shane's thing really quick. I had my REM pod break, and I made Nico fix it. So I just thought everybody should know that.
That's our use. That's what we're primarily useful for.
That's what we have in common.
Nico also fixes REM pods, so I just had to throw that out there because my antenna snapped off. I went, no, it's too old. It's too old to be one of the ones where you just pop it out and replace it. And I'm like, hey, Nico, I know you're a smart guy. Can you help? And he's like, we've got a solution, and here's 2 antennas. Okay.
That's cool.
So I have a very different background. I kind of am more on the intuition and that side of things for my beginnings and experiences. I have had things that I have encountered and experienced since childhood. I can remember things back as young as 3 years old that scared me as a child, that became kind of a joke in the family because my mom didn't know that I was actually seeing things. My brothers would sword fight with wrapping paper tubes, these things that I was witnessing and seeing as a child. They dubbed them monkey monsters based off of a 3-year-old's description. And it was just odd. Those things never moved with me. I grew up in California. Those things stayed at the old house. So I had different experiences then at the house we moved to in Iowa. It's just been a lifelong thing where it's a lot of unexplainable stuff. And I just was different. And that's all it was. My siblings and my mom didn't have the same thing. So I kind of kept it to myself. As far as paranormal investigating, I started hanging out at locations in the 90s. just on my own as an odd child that wanted to do things that were more my type of thing. I became one of the paranormal couch potatoes that watched all the shows. In fact, I met my husband online, and our biggest thing while we were dating across the pond from Iowa to Scotland, I would send him all of these links to episodes of shows that they couldn't get in Scotland. I would find ones that worked for him, and then we'd sit and talk about them. Him and I got our first actual investigation together in 2012 in Scotland when I went to visit him for the first time. And we've been investigating pretty much since then together. So we've had a few different experiences there and a lot of experiences here since he moved to Iowa. So quite an adventure going on there. As far as currently, I do run a team that my husband is a part of. It is called Paranormal Exposures. And we kind of do a lot of more local Midwest stuff at the moment because I have a young child, so we don't really venture out too far with her. But having a good time, meeting lots of people, doing exciting things. So
that's quite the story. I love that.
That's awesome.
That is cool.
And getting that difference in, compared to here at the States and in Scotland, I'm sure there's a ton of stories there. I would really like to hear about the difference in investigating and maybe even activity compared to here, if there is any. Is it the same there? What kind of differences are there? That's a whole nother episode.
It could very well be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
What about you, Michael? When did you start in the paranormal? What are some of your first experiences, and what's kept you going over time?
It was, back in Chicago, and my grandmother, before she passed, I was helping my mom take care of her and everything, and she would, point at things and see things, and at the time, back then she would call them Hanks, and I didn't understand why she called them Hanks, but it's a form of ghost to her. And, she was seeing things and, I look around and I couldn't see anything, but I kept thinking something here, because I can always feel things like I get this feeling, that intuitive thing that Kat was talking about. I think I had part of that. I had part of that because, at times I do see spirits, but it started when I was younger in Chicago, and, it didn't start right away, right then, but, it got me curious and interested. And so, as the years went by and everything, and I moved to Iowa, back in 78, 77, and, went to school here and everything. And then, I went to the library and I heard a guy talk, paranormal guy. I can't remember his name right now. It's been a little bit over 18 years. So, my mind is, doesn't remember everything, but he was talking about the paranormal, and I met a group. This was in Owine, by the way. I met a group in Owine called Heartland Truth Seekers. Lady named Gail Tripp, Michael Tripp, and I asked them about, what do they all do, or what is it that, how do you investigate? I didn't know much about investigating until I got with them. And so they took me on my first, we used to go for a whole week, paranormal, I call it paranormal week. They went to Bobby Mackey's, and we went to, I can't think of it. It was his first year, Eastern State Penitentiary. We got to go through there and stuff. And, being a newbie, of course I was scared and creeped out, but I was excited too, because this is something that I was, I wanted to do. And so they gave me a little test, and they made me go in the basement at Bobby Mackey's by myself. And I thought, okay, I can do this, I'm gonna be all right, and I'm down there and near the pit where the head of that lady fell through. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm sorry. I need to cut this short a little bit. But that's what got me started.
No, my friend, I love it. Keep going.
Yeah, it's all good.
Well, I mean, I just when I was in that basement there, I mean, I couldn't, supposed to be there's a kid down there that liked to play with, they had a bunch of ping pongs down there, ping pong balls down there, and I said, okay, well, I'm gonna sit here and see what happens, and ask this kid to play ball with me because that's what I like to do, and so it didn't happen right away, but about 20 minutes or so, the kid actually knocked the ball out of my hand. I felt the cool breeze. And of course, I was a little shaken, I ain't gonna lie. I'm pretty sure, I was pretty whitish. I mean, I was, shaken by that. And I got my black ass up. I'm sorry, I got myself out of there real fast. And that was one of my experiences of, paranormal investigation. But I mean, it was like, it just built up. I got addicted. I just had to keep going. I had to keep doing it. And that's how I got started, though, was, through the group in Owine and, well, my grandmother, and then the group in Owine. And then to this day, a little over 18 years later, I'm still excited about it. I absolutely love it. I mean, I love I want to know about the unknown. I've been, I want to know, like, it says in the Bible, it says when you die, you go to sleep. Well, I want to know about what are we investigating? Who are we investigating?
Are you going to be the one knocking ping pong balls out of people's hands when you die? I'm
gonna hunt somebody. I'm gonna. You know what? With all those dowels, I may hunt Cat because she got all them dowels in that house.
Yeah.
You're just going to be destroying people's dolls. Yeah, that's what you're going to be doing. Teaching people a lesson. Dang dolls.
That's right. That doll. I'll get you. But that was my, that's from, that's when I started out like that. And, I absolutely love it. I mean, I absolutely love it. And that's just the way it is for me. I got so addicted to it.
See, I got into it through friends and family as well. A group of people that I knew that we were all friends at the time, they started going to locations. This is back when they were WTF investigations, So, when something happens, everybody goes, what the fuck? That was the whole thing. And we really didn't think much was going to happen, but then things started to happen. And some of my first thoughts were, this definitely isn't like what you see on TV. And we were going at the time with some people who had been doing it for like 10, 15 years at the time. And I started asking them questions like, what keeps you doing this? What do you do different? Do you do the same stuff every time you go? What different results are you getting? How is your investigating changing? And they kind of just looked at me like, what do you mean changing? They just went to the same locations, used the same equipment over and over again. And that was enough for them, but that wasn't enough for me. And that's when we started looking into how equipment works, why it works, sometimes, why it goes off when it's not supposed to, and how those things could be affecting the environment. And there weren't too many people out there that were interested in that. So I was very fortunate enough to meet someone like Shane and John and kind of have that mindset to bounce off of to grow and change, because I don't think I would still be doing it if that wasn't something I was working towards. It's because some of these places, they do cost a little bit of money, and it is your time, and you want to feel like you're moving forward. But like Shane said, there's always that something that keeps it coming back when you think, well, why am I fuffing around with this? Yep. You seem to always meet someone or it's just something that pulls you back into it. And why,
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I work in a paranormal environment, where I work at right now. And, you know, it's weird. I mean, I work is hard sometimes, but I love going because of the possibilities of what I can see, you know, and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just, man, but I see, I know what you're talking about though, bro. I mean,
it's meeting the right people and trying to grow, you know, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to achieve with this podcast. Over time, we'll meet certain people and kind of grow in a direction where we can make new discoveries. So, you know, anyone that you guys want to bring on or any ideas you have, let's make it happen. Let's make this the spot for change, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I totally get that. You know, I've been going through my head thinking, you know, like, what if I'm like in the mental health building there? I can show you guys around doing a podcast like this, you know, just
Sure.
Yeah.
a tour. And I would love that you can take you sometime personally and all that. Just things that's coming in my head. I'm trying to think, you know.
I'll get there one day. Don't rush me.
Right. Yeah, just waiting for you, buddy.
Who am I? Where am I? I'm so excited.
You know, it's just.
Well, you know,
truly
I'm interested what you guys think. So, I mean, we've all been doing this for a number of years. I mean, between all of us, what do you guys, off of the experience that you have now, what do you really think happens when we die? And I mean, I know, you know, nothing's set in stone, but off of the experience that you have now, what do you think is going on? Let's start with Shane.
Well, I think basically there's some form of consciousness outside of the human mind. I don't know what it is. I don't know how you measure it, but you know, we have 5,000 or 6,000 years of written history, and throughout all cultures, all times, all, you know, clear back to, you know, big biblical times and even before, we have documented paranormal activity. You know, things that happen that you can't explain. You know, and of course, nowadays we are better at explaining stuff than we were in, you know, 3000 BC. But even today, we can't come up with all the answers. And so, you know.
Yep, it's so true. And so I completely
But there's got to
agree.
be something to it, because, you know, you would not have something that happened that long through time that still made it if it wasn't something to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially like think of the Eastern cultures. You know, their entire cultures are based on, you know, something outside of their mental capacity. I mean, you know, you think of the, you know, the shamans and stuff, and the, you know, they're coming up with all these rituals and stuff. They would not take their time to do it if they got no result.
Right. I agree. Absolutely.
Well, you know, like you said, it really is too much going on, too many accounts to just dismiss it, you know, all throughout
Well, and
history.
even with modern technology, now that we know what we're looking for, we do get semi-intelligent answers, I would call it.
Yeah, I completely agree. What about you, Kat? What do you think, with what you know and the things you've been through, what do you think happens when we die?
That's a tough one.
It is. But you know,
I ponder and change my thoughts on this all the time, based off of just what I'm experiencing. I grew up with no religious background to be thrown into a very religious background in my first marriage, and into now I'm trying to figure out where in the balance of that I believe that I really am. There's definitely something after death. I don't think that they have the same limits to a timeline that we do. I think that we are so focused on why are they spending their time talking to us in these places, and I don't think that their time matches up to our time. It's probably just a blip of what's there. We're just lucky enough to be in that moment of that blip. I feel like I do believe in reincarnation. So for me, that brings a whole nother layer to this whole adventure that we're going to talk about in this podcast. Cause like, that's something, but I have things that I know how to do that I didn't learn from anywhere, and I just do them. And I was talking to Nico the other day about it. I never was taught how to sew. My mom didn't teach me. My grandma was already passed away before I was at an age that I started doing it. And the first project that I did was a full Renaissance gown with beaded trim and hand sewn on details and boning and grommets. And I put together this fancy multi-layered extravagant dress. And I'm like, people ask, where did I learn how to do that? I'm like, that is such a question. I don't know really what to say, So where did it come from? Well, I think I learned it somewhere else, because it's not something that I looked up. It was, I'm going to date myself as I've been around longer than Google, and it's not something I Googled,
Right, yeah.
But, where does that fit into the mix of life after death? How long is the in-between time? What's the, limbo? I'm just kind of throwing a ton of thoughts out there, and Michael's going to get stuck with all of that mess I just made. But
well, Kat, that's not with, there is something to that, because it's not just with skills. It's about like personality traits in people. There are so many different people in the world, and you can take two different people and raise them in the exact same conditions, and some of them will turn into completely different people. And they have completely different traits. Just like, where does some of that come from, and how does it lead into itself? You know what I mean? I don't think it's all just by chance. I think some of it is by past experiences and learning and things that we don't really know that we've done. So
so many cultures have, the reincarnation or they wouldn't.
Yeah.
It seems like a strange thing to come up with, but I think for them, that's the passing down of that knowledge you're talking about.
So the science guys are in charge of finding the real answers to that?
We try.
We're trying.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the part that I struggle with deeply. I go back and forth with, why am I doing this? And then there are other times when I absolutely know I have to do it. But there are times where I'm like, well, should I be putting this much effort and energy into this? Am I really going to discover this now, or is this something that I just have to wait to figure out? Maybe I will understand it. If something is there, when I die, it's going to be there, and then all my questions are going to be answered. I'm going to figure it out. Or nothing's going to be there, and I really don't think that, though. I don't think that there's nothing. I don't think that all of this would be happening if there was nothing there, Right. But like you said, I go back and forth on it philosophically, because
I do all the time.
All the time. I try to keep it related to this world and how existence functions here. I really think that it's just another form of existence, and there will be very similar rules and things that you have to learn, just like you have to here,
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Michael? What do you think? You've been doing this longer than all of us, and you've seen a lot of things. What do you think happens when you die, or what are your opinions?
I think it depends on the way you die, to me. Because sometimes, for instance, people that die suddenly, I think we're all energy, and energies, I don't think can be destroyed or be, I think energy continues on, and I really believe that, for instance, a person that just, died tragically just like that, sometime that person sticks around, because some of them, I believe some of them don't believe they're dead yet. Some of them, I think, still believe that they're still alive, that they're still here. Some of them keep the same personalities that they'd had when they were alive as well.
That makes sense.
And so, like when I think like Gettysburg, for instance, to me, You know, I mean, yeah, they've been gone a long time, but you know, a lot of them died so young and all that they, you know, they continue to roam, they continue to march, they continue to do what they did when they were younger. You know, I do believe there is something after this, after we pass on. You know, I mean, that's one of the reasons, one of the things why I do this, why I do what I do, because you know, through EVPs or through spirit boxes and all that, you know, you hear those answers to some of the questions you ask, you know, and you know, or you know, they want to tell their story. Even some of them, you know, I mean, I really, you know, I firmly believe, you know, that they stick around where they love to be at. You know, they stick around a home or a building or maybe a ground, you know, that they love to be at. You know, I go back, like you said, I go back and forth with this and stuff. Then again, you know, I mean, spirits are real. You know what I'm saying?
To me, you know, every time you say something like that, you're also saying another thing. So it's like, if they are sticking around, why are they not everywhere? You know, why are they not in Walmart, in gas stations, where you work?
You don't know that they aren't either.
Exactly, that's true. I mean, you don't know that they aren't, but like,
yeah.
Why do we get the most activity in some of these, you know, quote unquote haunted locations versus some of the other locations, you know?
Because we're not asking the questions at Walmart.
Yeah. Well, we should start. We should get in at
Walmart. my psychic friends, they always talk about, well, I can't go in that restaurant, or I can't go in this store, I can't go. There's just something, you know, there's energy here that I don't like. It's uncomfortable. So they are everywhere, according to them at least. I mean, we have a hard time measuring them, but people that are sensitive to it, I mean, they talk about it. They whine about it all the time. Like, I ain't going there. There's bad spirits. Well, I'm not going to this restaurant.
Well, and I could see that being very hard to deal with, too, because if you are someone with that ability who can literally see ghosts, like some people claim to be able to see them everywhere, right? Yeah. What would that be like walking around in your day-to-day life, seeing them everywhere?
There'd be twice as many people as there are.
Yeah, and
everywhere.
And how do you define who's real and who's not? I mean, I've never gotten to personally ask those kinds of questions. Like, are they just as clear as I am when I'm standing in front of you, or are they kind of see-through? Does it vary? I'm sure it varies, just like everything else in the world. There is no solid, this is the way. It's just like every other.
For people like me, it's difficult because I'm about as psychic as a rock. So, you know, it's like somebody, you know, one of my psychic friends will be like, oh, yeah, this area's got a lot of energy, or this. It's like, all right, show me the exact spot so I can go hook some sensors here, and we'll see if there is energy there or not.
I feel like Shane would be a candy rock.
I can't. I mean, literally, you know, somebody would be like, yeah, I think there's a demon coming up in the floor in the basement. I can feel it. All right, so I'm the first one down the steps. I don't see nothing. And I'm walking around, poking at things.
Yeah, but that's a good thing. So they see it and they're scared of it, or it can't do nothing to you. You can walk right at it. You don't see it. You're not scared.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a superpower.
I don't know. It should be dumb. One of those. One of the things.
Like, because it seems like these people that can see them can get like punched in the face by them and stuff. So
they get scratched. They say they get mentally abused. They get all kinds of things.
Well, and then some
not
people,
being one of those person, I can't relate or see it from their perspective. So
it
makes it a lot more difficult, you know.
I mean, you know, so I just wish that we had. Hopefully, that's what this turns into, as a platform where we can all come together and talk about our abilities and experiences and start to understand why certain people can see them more than others, why some people get, you know, scratched or things thrown at them versus others. You know, does it have something to do with your ability to see them, and that's why they can interact with you more? And then, you know, if that is true, do you really want to see them? It's like a double-ended sword. Like, you want to know, because that's why we do this, but if me being able to see them means that they can do something to me, then I'm good. Maybe I don't want to see them.
Well, and who knows they're bad or good either. I mean, there's bad people and good people in society. And if it's true that the spirit stays on after death, then it would make sense that you would have both good and bad. And, you'd have the criminal ghost, you'd have the, the churchy ghost, you'd have the whatever,
See, that's where I come from with it. I really feel like it's just a different form of existence, just like this one. When you meet someone, you don't know anything about them really. You're just going off of what you know at first, and you learn about them over time. And I think it would be the same thing in any other existence. It's just obviously not linked to our physical one. At one point in time, our existence was the seed and the egg. You know what I'm saying? All of us, at one point, we were the first ones to make it to the egg. So now we get this physical existence. And now we have the capabilities of this existence. So when we die from this one, there are going to be pros and cons to whatever existence is after this. And there's going to be a whole different parameter to how it works and what our goals are and what expectations are, just like this one.
Yeah. I think, see, I know, Kat, you've seen spirits, right? I mean, you've seen stuff
absolutely.
like that. Yeah, and I have too, right? And, it's not like, what I've seen, it's, they're more thick through for me. I mean, I see a little bit of color here and there and all that. I mean, for me, I guess one of the weird times for me was when I went to what do you call it? It's when old cars and vehicles go to be destroyed. Demolition yard or what they yeah. And I saw one in a place like that, and I thought, why would I see one at a place where all these, damaged cars and everything and stuff like that? And I thought, well, car accidents.
The junkyard.
Junkyard. Yeah, thank you. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. and I'm sure there's a lot of energy in a junkyard, especially if there's a whole bunch of wrecked vehicles.
Yeah. And I thought, holy cow, because that was mostly unexpected for me. And all that, to have that happen and stuff. And then I thought, and I see them here sometime. Not all the time. I wouldn't say I see them every day even, but every once in a while when they want to show themselves, they do. I mean, I had that happen. I mean, it's just, it makes me jump sometimes because they just pop out of nowhere sometimes, the old doctors, and stuff like that. And, which is cool. I love it, I mean, because, they know I can see them, and then again, at times, they do other things as well and all that. So, I mean,
I do it when you're on the toilet. I do it when you're on the toilet.
Oh my goodness. At least I'm on the toilet, get it all out.
I'd be popping up at the most inconvenient moment for you people that can see me. I can't wait.
I look forward to that. That'll be good.
Yeah. Talk about getting an enema. Holy cow.
That's Nico's nickname.
Well, I mean, even I create apparitions when I'm on the toilet.
I'm sorry, Michael. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, what if you were just driving down the road and one popped up in your passenger seat? I'd go, oh, hell no. Fuck all this.
I've had that. I've actually had
See?
that.
See?
I've had more than
Go ahead, Kat. I'm sorry. I had a feeling you had that. I just had a feeling. Go ahead, lady.
So I actually, this is 90s, so a while back. I was driving home from work and had an experience where I was actually dozing off driving, and my grandma came and woke me up. I saw her in my vehicle. I saw her in my mirror, and I saw her when I looked back. But if she wouldn't have woke me up falling asleep driving, I would have crashed my car.
Yep.
Wow.
And I can't explain that, but my grandma's done that for me more than once. Back in my stupid days of driving too tired all the time, I was working from 7:30 in the morning till 10:30 at night, and then driving 45 minutes home every day, and it was exhausting. And that's hard to explain. But as Michael was saying, sometimes there's see-through him for him. Sometimes it's not even a full person. Sometimes it's just part of something. Sometimes for me, when I'm seeing something, I don't see a person at all. I see like wavy energy variations and colors, and it's not always a clear thing. But I have also seen I've seen some things so solidly a person that I question how in the world, even when I've seen it many times, I'm like, how did that happen? There was a man standing there. How did that man get there? And now he's gone. And you literally question, even though you know exactly what you saw, you still are like, that didn't happen.
I have a theory about that. I really think that when you first pass away, assuming that there is an existence after death, I think that there would be a process that you would have to go through to let go, right? There would have to be a certain acceptance, and I don't know what time is to them, and we probably will never know that until we're actually there. But if you think about it from a psychological standpoint, when you first pass away, whether you're 20 or you lived a full life and you passed away peacefully, right? You're going to have to accept that you're no longer in this existence and you can no longer interact in this existence. You have to let go of your friends, your family, your favorite things, and then things that are linked to this physical existence, like taste, touch, smell. Those are all physical body things.
Yeah, but we don't know that they don't experience those.
Yeah, that's it. We really don't, but it is safe to assume that if we're not in this physical existence, we probably don't taste it anymore. Oh.
But then why do they always want to talk about food?
Well, see, maybe that's like a memory. You know what I mean?
Well, and then the other thing is we get poltergeists, so obviously, unless it's an actual person doing it, then, with psychokinesis, unless that's happening, we get strange things happen all the time where physical objects are moved. So they have some interaction with this side, or otherwise we'd never ever detect them and we would never know they existed.
And if you think about it, what are the most common types of physical reactions? So usually in all of our experiences worldwide, the most common are a push, a scratch, or some type of a touch.
Well, but we also get EMF waves, we get radiation changes, we get temperature changes. It's almost like I don't know if this is the right word to put it, but it's like they kind of live halfway in the quantum realm and halfway in the real realm. And through quantum interactions, they can subtly, affect real life atoms, real life material, thing. And my guess is it might not be an easy thing to do, and so they can't do it very often. Or if they have the fade effect, like a lot of the theories clear back, from the 1800s, even that they have a finite lifespan. Their energy dissipates slowly into the environment. So somebody that died last week might be able to throw a cup on the floor and do stuff, but somebody that died 250, 300 years ago can't do anything more than maybe make some whispery sounds or
taps, little knocks,
or just only subconscious interactions. They get in your mind and poke at you a little bit, but they can't do anything else.
Well, and that may explain too why sometimes you see full-on figures and sometimes they're kind of blurry or see-through or even wavy. Maybe that's slowly how their energy goes. Maybe that's different forms of acceptance or different forms of strength coming through to you. Or it could be a different form of their ability at that time to communicate in this existence. Like Shane said, I also think it's something that, just like any other existence that we know, we learn skills over time. So we practice them, we get better at them, we begin to understand them.
Sure.
And just like in this existence, there are people that don't care about learning and growing and understanding. So I think it would be the same in another existence. I think there are people that really care and really want to come through and really want to be heard and seen and known. And then there are people that are just perfectly happy in that other existence and they don't care about learning and growing and changing, just like in this one. There are people that are perfectly happy just going to work and watching TV every night. And then there are people who want to build new equipment and want to create buildings and jobs and all that fun stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally, I hear you. I think, to me, like I said earlier, it depends on how the person died as well. I mean, if you got an elderly person that was, dying and going through things, they may just want to, they don't want to die and just move on. They probably don't want to come back, or, a person, or they want to come back and like a cat, want to, like a guardian angel, they want to make sure you're okay, you're doing well,
Yeah, they're only going to come back if they have a purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's each is individualized, as we all know, and all that, because, I mean, like I said, when that time comes, when I leave here, I'm haunting somebody.
Yeah, well, haunt cat.
I would love you to all haunt me. Come on, bring it.
She'll be like, speak into the red light. I'll be like, okay. Hello, check testes.
We'll make that dial move and everything. We'll make them talk.
Can you imagine that though? Like just like putting all your effort into one piece of device just to get it to go off. Like how hard, we don't know how hard it is. Like when we go to these locations and we ask them to set these things off multiple times in the evening, what if it's taking just everything that they got to do that? Just to say, I am
Possible.
here,
Yeah. I mean, that's why you feel this cool breeze of that cold air. They're taking that energy from you, or they're using your batteries. That's why we carry a lot of batteries, right? I mean, they use them up. I mean, when they want to show up. I mean, I've had that experience happen. I mean, I think they use what they can to, come forth.
If I was a ghost, I'd just connect to a solar panel. It'd be good to go. Think outside the box, man.
Right. Yes, right. Get that sun going. Yes, sun energy. That's cool.
Or two, that's what I don't get is there are the theories, and we'll get into full episodes of this going forward. But the theory of that it is energy that they're using, there is so much energy in the world now compared to 200 years ago. You know what I mean? So,
well, we got 8 billion people on this planet now.
Yeah, I mean,
even a few decades ago, we only had 2. We're growing at a rate that's, and that's a lot more people to die. That's a lot more people to live.
Exponentially.
And then also there's a lot more.
I've only had one. I'm only responsible for one, so
me too.
I'm not skewing the numbers that much.
Right. I hear you there.
But no, I get what you mean. Like, there's so much energy in the world. So if it really was energy at any given point in time, they should have plenty to take from and feed off of. So there's got to be something to how that works. It has to be something other than just take as you please and use as you please. Because if that were the case, if we were in another existence where we could see energy and take it as we wanted it and do what we wanted with it, or were able to learn with it, I really think that a lot more things would be happening, Right.
Gotcha. I don't know. I think like you said, like when you're investigating places that have no electricity or no energy, but it's just you and your batteries and, whatever, equipment you have, sometimes they'll just drain you.
Yeah. Well, we've actually done that as a test. I've actually taken like a brand new set of batteries, measured them, wrote on a Sharpie on the battery what it measured, and then took them to the event, let them set all over the place, and then bring them back and measure them. So I've done it.
Yep.
Wow.
And what were the results of that, Shane?
Yeah, what was
so far, no batteries have been drained. And my pet theory is that the people that say they charge their stuff don't. Or they buy the cheap dollar store batteries that have like 3 supers and 10 heavy duties in the name, which means they aren't worth anything.
Yeah. I mean, you know what, though? I don't blame them because some of the good, like 9 volts, a lot of these things use 9-volt batteries. Here, it's like $10.
You almost have to mortgage your house to get one of those.
Yeah, it's like $10 to $20 for 2 9-volt batteries or something.
And
then you go to the dollar store, you can get one that says ultra super value for $1. You know,
and you get what you pay for.
But you shouldn't get that. Yeah, if you want something reliable, you know, I use the rechargeable ones from Amazon and I test them before I go, and you know. But Shane, I've also done that. I remember we did that when you came here for Farah.
Yes.
Remember we left the test was 2 batteries, 2 brand new batteries. We left them at home, and then we tested 2 batteries on site. And then when we got back, all from the same pack. And then, you know, that's important stuff. That's outside of the box thinking that you need to do with your equipment.
It's a cheap experiment.
Yeah, and documenting too with your equipment what seems to malfunction the most. Is it always the same thing going off, the same light? How does it behave when the batteries die? Like some of the equipment that I've built over time, I've just let it run in my home all the way until the batteries die just to see what happens when the batteries are dying. It's important to know. It's a data point. And thank you for reminding me, Shane. We are coming up on 10 minutes. So we got to start thinking about wrapping this up here.
It goes quick when you're having fun, you know?
Doesn't it go quick? And that was nothing. We're touching, I mean, that was just getting to know us and kind of chatting a bit. We're going to, let's talk about what we hope to do going forward. Before we end this, I'd like to hear from all of you. We'll start with Shane. What do you hope to accomplish with this podcast in the 10 episodes?
I hope to accomplish the goal of getting other paranormal investigators to put a little bit of thought into what they're doing, not just sitting in the dark, hoping for jump scares and video filming it and hoping they get the most number of ratings. You know, I want them to actually be like, all right, why are we here? If I'm, you know, now that I know why I'm here, am I doing something that can be tested, repeatable? Can we, you know, some method of finding out what's going on the other side that you can do consistently to find patterns? Because it's all about it's a pattern matching game. And so I think if we can get investigators to think about what they're doing and try to get something that's going to give more solid evidence, then we've been a success.
Agreed.
Agree. That was a good answer. You are awesome. What about you, Mike? Kat, what do you think?
My cat?
Yeah, you cat.
So being from the other perspective, although I'm very much into understanding the data side, I would like to figure out how to bring the intuitive and the data sides together.
Excellent.
So that there's a way to be able to validate some of the things that I experience or that others experience in the intuitive side.
Yes,
so
excellent.
That's the hardest thing for my team is we have a mix of people that are in the same state of mind as I am. And it is very hard to be able to say, I'm experiencing this, and everybody else stands on the side and goes, well, I'm not. How do we work together to be able to make it something that we can prove is real?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
I agree. I totally agree with both of them, Shane and Kat. I'm down with that. And I just, I like to have this be a forum where we're constantly learning and not judging or not, I guess what I want to say is I want to be for us to be a forum for people to how can I put this? To we're not being cocky or arrogant, like a lot of paranormal teams and a lot of teams do, we got this and we're better than that, or we be better than that. I want to, show us our solidarity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But,
it's important in our field. There's a lot of infighting.
Yeah.
Things that don't even matter.
A lot of paradrama that's all based off of assumption. A lot of the times that these people are arguing, it's all based off of assumptions and opinions that at the end of the day, half of them are not provable. And it's like, why are you fighting over something that you can't even really prove? You've proved it to yourself, but what about the rest of the world? What about, it has to be challenged. When you present a certain opinion, you're presenting it to be challenged, and that should be a good thing. I don't know why people don't want to be challenged anymore. That helps your opinion or your belief grow. Right. It helps you learn and change.
If we could bring that out, that'd be wow.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool. We got the right people to do it right here.
Yeah,
I hope so. Yeah, I think we do too.
Yeah.
And guys, going forward, episode 2, I was planning for episode 2 to be about equipment, what we use when we first started versus what we use now, building equipment, what we hope to see going forward, what certain equipment does and how it works. So, the next episode will be in detail about what this equipment is, some of the most popular equipment, how it works and why, which,
sometimes why it don't.
Yeah, sometimes why it doesn't, and things that can set it off outside of the paranormal. And then when, how you can tell or test if you're getting a paranormal response or not versus something that could be setting it off, So.
Like that. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. And, we'll be back in a month from now. Again, I just want to say thank you to every single one of you. This has been a great first episode, and I just can't wait to see what we do moving forward.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And thank you to everyone in the comment section who joined tonight. All of you. Our plans going forward, what we plan to do is talk about the topic of the episode of the evening, and then the last 10 or 15 minutes of the show, we will try to respond to all of you live and try to answer your questions as well. So any of you that didn't get any questions that didn't get answered or anything like that, I apologize. This was our tryout episode. We will continue to learn and grow and go from there.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you.
Have a good night, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you. God bless y'all.